Boasting at Harmony's Edge. The observation deck of Harmony's Edge stretched like a glass cathedral into the void, its transparent walls offering an unobstructed view of the Andromeda Nebula's swirling colors. 5 ambassadors stood in a loose circle, their forms as varied as the stars themselves, each representing empires that had conquered solar systems when Earth was still cooling from its birth. Ambassador Kethrix of the Vol Dominion spoke first, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. Our Worldbreaker-class dreadnoughts can shatter a moon with a single salvo. 30 kilometers of reinforced titanium hull, equipped with graviton cannons that bend spacetime itself. He gestured with 3 of his 6 arms toward the holographic display floating above them. We have held the Orion Arm for 12,000 years. No fleet has dared challenge us in 5 millennia. Ambassador Cyrith, the serpentine coil descendant, laughed, a sound like wind through hollow reeds. Her scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. Size means nothing without speed, Kethrix. Our striker fleets phase through dimensions. We don't break your hulls, we appear inside them. Your crews die before they realize they're under attack. She uncoiled slightly, her tone dripping with ancient pride. The Vol wouldn't last 6 minutes against us. The massive 4-armed warrior from the Kregan Empire, Ambassador Thorn, slammed a fist against the transparent wall hard enough to make it hum. Parlor tricks, he growled. The Kregan Armada fights with honor. Shield walls that withstand star death. Plasma lances that can cut through planetary cores. We conquered 40 systems in the Blood Wars, and we held everyone. His eyes, black as neutron stars, swept across the others. Your stealth means nothing if you can't survive our opening barrage. Ambassador Quillix, a floating sphere of concentrated energy from the Luminar Collective, pulsed with irritation. Translated thought forms emerged as precise, emotionless words. Biological barbarism. Our network defense grid synchronizes 400 vessels simultaneously. Perfect coordination. 0 communication lag. We calculate victory probabilities before battle begins. We have not lost an engagement in 8 centuries because we only fight battles we've already won mathematically. The 5th voice, soft and measured, cut through the escalating argument like a blade through silk. Fascinating perspectives. All 4 ambassadors turned toward Ambassador Chen of the Terran Coalition. She'd been standing slightly apart, hands clasped behind her back, dressed in simple gray diplomatic attire that seemed almost deliberately plain compared to the ornate ceremonial armor and exotic biology surrounding her. Her dark eyes watched them calmly, her expression neutral, neither impressed nor dismissive. Cyrith's head swayed with amusement. The human speaks. Tell us, Ambassador Chen. What makes your species believe you belong in this conversation? Your people have been space-capable for what? 300 years? The question dripped with condescension. Some of the ships in this station's dock are older than your entire civilization's presence among the stars. Chen's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. You're absolutely right. We're newcomers. Kethrix's crystalline features refracted the nebula's light. Then why were you invited to this council? The Terran Coalition controls, what, 15 systems? We measure our territories in sectors. 14 systems, Chen corrected gently. We lost Henderson's star to the plague 8 years ago. Still rebuilding. Thorn's laugh was volcanic. You admit weakness so casually? In Kregan culture, such honesty would be considered grounds for immediate dismissal from negotiations. In human culture, Chen replied, her voice unchanged. Lying about our capabilities would be more shameful than acknowledging our limitations. She walked slowly toward the window, her reflection ghosting across the stars. But you asked why we were invited. I believe the Galactic Council saw something in humanity's approach to problems. Quillix pulsed brighter. Problems? You mean survival? Humanity scraped through the Centauri conflicts by sheer luck. Your fleets are small, your weapons conventional, your strategies textbook. What could you possibly teach civilizations that have perfected warfare across millennia? The observation deck fell silent except for the quiet hum of environmental systems. Chen gazed out at the Andromeda Nebula, its colors painting her features in shades of purple and gold. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that made even Thorn lean forward slightly. Ambassador Thorn, your Armada's shield walls, they're designed to absorb energy, correct? Redistribute impact across networked vessels? Thorn's eyes narrowed. Yes, standard defensive doctrine. And Cyrith, your phase drives, they operate by sliding through quantum foam, exploiting Planck-scale vulnerabilities in space-time? The Ascendant's scales rippled with surprise. How would you— Kethrix, your graviton weapons manipulate the Higgs field to create localized mass concentrations. Effective, elegant, devastatingly powerful against stationary targets. Chen turned to face them fully. Quillix, your networked fleet operates on quantum-entangled communication nodes, giving you instantaneous coordination across light years. The silence stretched longer now. 4 ancient civilizations stared at the human who had just casually described the fundamental architecture of their most classified military technologies. Chen's smile was patient, almost apologetic. We've been studying, learning. That's what humans do. We watch, we analyze, we understand. And then— She paused, choosing her next words carefully. We iterate. Kethrix's voice dropped to a crystalline whisper. Are you suggesting— I'm not suggesting anything, Ambassador. But if you'd like a demonstration, a friendly one, of course, I'm authorized to invite this council to observe the Terran fleet's capabilities. Chen's eyes moved from one ambassador to the next. No combat. No conflict. Just a display of what humanity has learned in our brief 3 centuries among the stars. Thorn's laugh returned, but it rang hollow now. You're challenging us? With 14 systems against our empires. Not challenging, Chen corrected softly. Offering perspective. She pulled a small data chip from her pocket and placed it on the holographic projector's interface. Coordinates bloomed in the air. The Helios sector. Neutral space. 2 weeks from now. Bring whatever you'd like to show. We'll do the same. Cyrith coiled tighter, her voice sharp. And when your primitive vessels embarrass themselves, what then? Ambassador Chen walked toward the exit, pausing at the threshold. She looked back over her shoulder, and for just a moment, something ancient flickered in her eyes, something that predated starships and empires, something forged in caves and deserts and ice ages, in the brutal calculus of survival on a world that tried to kill its children daily. Then you'll have an entertaining story to tell, she said quietly. But if you're wrong about us, if humanity turns out to be more than what you assume— Her smile was gentle, almost kind. Well, that would be a more interesting story, wouldn't it? The door whispered shut behind her, leaving 4 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations staring at empty air and wondering, perhaps for the first time in centuries, if they'd underestimated something critical. Outside the observation deck, stars burned in infinite silence, and somewhere in the darkness between them, the Terran fleet waited. End of Part 1, 998 words. Ready to proceed with Part 2? I'll maintain this tone and pacing while building toward the human demonstration. Each part will flow naturally into the next, keeping your audience engaged for the full 35-minute experience. The Human Challenge. The message reached the Vol Dominion's War Council 3 hours after Ambassador Chen left Harmony's Edge. Kethrix stood before the Eternal Tribunal, a semicircle of crystalline beings whose bodies had been augmented with quantum processors millennia ago, making them more computer than creature. Their collective consciousness processed his report in nanoseconds. A human challenge, the tribunal spoke as one, their voices harmonizing into a single crystalline chord. Curious, what are your strategic assessments? Kethrix projected the data Chen had provided. The Helios sector is genuinely neutral. No strategic value, no inhabited systems, just empty space and a dying red giant. She chose well if she wanted to avoid accusations of home field advantage. He paused, light refracting through his form. But our intelligence on Terran military capacity is comprehensive. They have nothing that should concern us. Should concern us, the tribunal echoed. An interesting choice of words, Ambassador. Explain your uncertainty. Chen knew our capabilities. Describe them with technical precision that suggests either exceptional espionage or— Kethrix hesitated. Something he'd never done in 800 years of service. Or direct observation of principles we believed were classified beyond any newcomer species' reach. The tribunal pulsed with collective thought. Recommendation? We attend. We bring the Worldbreaker Sovereign, and we watch very, very carefully. Across the galaxy, similar conversations unfolded in war rooms and throne chambers and quantum processing cores. Ambassador Cyrith coiled before the serpent matriarchs in the Cathedral of Echoes, where bioluminescent pillars stretched into darkness and the walls whispered with the memories of 10,000 years of conquest. The eldest matriarch, her scales dulled with age but her eyes sharp as obsidian, listened to Cyrith's account without interruption. She baited us, the matriarch hissed finally, deliberately. The admission of weakness, the casual display of knowledge, the gentle challenge wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Classic misdirection? Then we should decline, Cyrith suggested, though her tone suggested she believed no such thing. No. The matriarch uncoiled, her massive form creating waves in the chamber's bioluminescent pool. We go because not going would signal fear. But more importantly, we go because I want to understand how a species barely 3 centuries old knows about quantum foam exploitation. That information cost us 600 years of research and 12 billion deaths in failed prototype tests. Her eyes fixed on Cyrith with predatory focus. Either they've stolen our most guarded secrets, or they've discovered something we haven't. Both possibilities require investigation. In the Kregan war forges, where heat from planetary cores powered the construction of vessels designed to outlast suns, Ambassador Thorn stood before Supreme Commander Dracus, a warrior so old his armor had fused with his body, making him more weapon than being. A demonstration of force, Dracus rumbled, his voice like grinding tectonic plates. The humans wish to show they can stand among giants. He laughed, the sound causing the walls to vibrate. I like them already. Arrogance is honest. False modesty is a weakness, but sir, the human was anything but arrogant. She was measured, precise, like she was solving an equation rather than issuing a challenge. Dracus's eyes narrowed, more concerning still. Warriors who treat battle like mathematics rarely lose by accident. They lose because they've calculated that the loss teaches them something valuable. He stood, his massive frame casting shadows across tactical displays showing Kregan conquests spanning 3,000 years. Prepare the adamant fist, full war configuration. And Thorn, bring 3 support vessels instead of 1. You expect treachery? I expect surprise. Humans survived the Centauri conflicts not through superior technology, but through adaptation. Every engagement they fought, they learned. Every defeat made them stronger. Dracus's hand rested on the pommel of a plasma blade older than Earth's industrial revolution. Survivors are more dangerous than conquerors. Survivors understand desperation. The Luminar Collective's response was the most analytical. Quilix's consciousness merged with the central processing nexus, a distributed intelligence spanning 400 star systems. The conversation occurred in quantum states, probability clouds collapsing into certainty across picoseconds. Query: Threat assessment, Terran coalition. Response: Minimal military capacity by conventional metrics. Query: Explain Ambassador Chen's knowledge of classified technologies. Response: Insufficient data. 3 hypotheses. 1. Espionage, probability 34%. 2. Parallel development, probability 19%. 3. Alternative theoretical framework, probability 47%. That third number made Quilix pulse with something approaching excitement. Alternative theoretical frameworks were how civilizations made exponential leaps. The Luminar Collective had achieved theirs 1,800 years ago, when they'd cracked unified quantum consciousness. If humanity had found their own framework. Decision: Attend demonstration. Allocate maximum observation resources. Probability of paradigm shift. 12%. 12% didn't sound significant until you realized the collective rarely assigned anything above 3% probability to truly revolutionary. Fenced 2 weeks passed like a held breath across the galaxy. The Helios sector was unremarkable. Failing red giant star surrounded by asteroid, debris and the frozen corpses of worlds that had died when their sun began its collapse. No one lived here. No one wanted to. It was perfect neutral ground precisely because it was worthless. The Vol Worldbreaker Sovereign arrived first, its 30-kilometer bulk emerging from hyperspace with the gravitational disruption of a small moon. Ketherix watched from the command cathedral as sensor arrays mapped every cubic meter of surrounding space. Nothing. They were alone. The coiled ascendant phase fleet materialized second. 40 vessels appearing simultaneously in a perfect geometric formation. Their arrival so precisely coordinated it seemed choreographed. Cyrith observed the Vol dreadnought with satisfaction. Size meant nothing if you couldn't hit what you were shooting at. The Kregan armada thundered into existence third, their ships designed not for elegance but for intimidation. The adamant fist led 3 support cruisers, each one a cathedral of guns and armor and righteous fury. Thorne grinned at the growing assembly. This would be educational. The Luminar fleet arrived last. 400 vessels linked by quantum entanglement, moving as a single organism. Quillix's consciousness distributed across every ship simultaneously, seeing through countless sensors, processing reality from 400 perspectives at once. They waited. An hour passed. Then 2. The 4 fleets maintained careful distances, weapons powered but not armed, shields active but not aggressive. Professional courtesy among predators. Ambassador Chen's voice came through on all frequencies simultaneously, calm and clear as mountain water. Thank you for accepting our invitation. The Terran fleet will arrive shortly. We apologize for the delay. We're coming from a bit farther out than you might expect. Kethrix frowned. Farther out? Terra was 12 light-years from the Helios sector. Where could they be coming from that would? The sensors screamed, not alarms. Not warnings. The sensors themselves screamed, their quantum processors overloading as they tried to interpret data that shouldn't exist. Every ship's detection grid lit up simultaneously with contacts that hadn't been there a microsecond before, but they hadn't arrived. They'd been revealed. The Terran fleet had been there the entire time, occupying the exact same space as the 4 assembled armadas, their stealth system so perfect they'd been invisible to sensors designed to detect quantum fluctuations across dimensions. 12 human vessels hung in the void like ghosts becoming solid. They were smaller than any capital ship present. The largest maybe 5 kilometers long, sleek and dark as the space between stars. No decorative armor, no intimidating weapons arrays. They looked almost understated. But every sensor in every fleet was now registering something impossible. The human ships weren't just stealthed. They were producing gravitational signatures that didn't match their visible mass. Energy readings that didn't correspond to any known reactor type. Hull materials that reflected sensor pings in ways that shouldn't be physically possible. Ambassador Chen's face appeared on every ship's display. She looked exactly as she had on Harmony's Edge. Calm, professional, almost apologetic. Shall we begin? In the command cathedral of the Worldbreaker Sovereign, Ambassador Kethrix stared at the tactical display and felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 centuries of military service. Uncertainty, and beneath that, smaller but growing, something even more unfamiliar, fear. The alien displays, Ambassador Chen's voice carried no judgment. No anticipation, just patient invitation. We'll observe your demonstrations first, if that's agreeable. We're curious to see what the galaxy's finest have achieved. Kethrix found his voice first, though it took longer than he'd like to admit. The shock of realizing the human fleet had been present, undetected for over 2 hours, still reverberated through his consciousness. But pride was older than fear, and the Vol Dominion had not ruled the Orion Arm for 12 millennia by showing weakness. The Vol will demonstrate first, he announced, his crystalline voice regaining its resonant confidence. Observe the power that has held empires at bay for longer than most species have possessed fire. The Worldbreaker Sovereign rotated slowly, its massive bulk turning with ponderous grace until its primary weapons array faced a large asteroid cluster, roughly 300 kilometers distant. Kethrix's consciousness merged with the ship's targeting systems, a sensation he'd experienced 10,000 times. The cold clarity of becoming one with 30 kilometers of purposeful destruction. Graviton cannons, full salvo, he commanded. The space between the Sovereign and the asteroids twisted. That was the only word for it. Reality bent like fabric pulled taut, space-time itself warping under the manipulation of the Higgs field. The asteroids, some as large as mountains composed of iron and nickel and stone that had orbited this dying star for 1 billion years, simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not shattered. They compressed into singularity points smaller than atoms, their mass converted directly into radiation that blazed across the electromagnetic spectrum, before dissipating into the void. Where there had been hundreds of asteroids, there was now nothing, not even debris, complete erasure. Graviton weapons operate by creating localized mass concentrations, Kethrix explained, his voice carrying to all assembled fleets. We don't merely destroy our enemies, we compress them beyond the Schwarzschild radius, turning their own matter against them. Each cannon requires the power output of a small star to operate. The Worldbreaker Sovereign has 47. Silence greeted this demonstration. Even among ancient civilizations, the casual creation of micro-black holes was impressive. Chen's voice came through, warm with genuine appreciation. Elegant. The precision required to prevent cascade reactions must be extraordinary. Something in Kethrix relaxed slightly. At least the humans understood the technical achievement, even if they couldn't replicate it. Indeed, it took our civilization 4,000 years to perfect stable graviton manipulation. The mathematics alone require solving the Einstein field equations in real time while accounting for quantum corrections to general relativity. Chen finished. Yes, we've worked through similar problems. Beautiful engineering, Ambassador. Kethrix's form flickered with surprise, but before he could respond, Sereth's voice cut through the channel, sharp with competitive edge. Impressive, Kethrix, but destruction means nothing if you cannot reach your target. The coiled Ascendant's 40 vessels began to move, their formation tightening into a spiral pattern. Observe what true advancement looks like. The phase fleet vanished, not slowly, not with any visible transition. One moment they occupied normal spacetime. The next, they were simply gone. Every sensor array across all fleets registered the disappearance and the complete absence of any energy, signature that should accompany dimensional translation. 5 seconds passed. 10, 20. Then, space tore open. Not near the asteroid field Kethrix had obliterated, not in any predictable location. The Ascendant fleet materialized inside the formation of the 3 other alien armadas, each vessel appearing precisely in the gaps between ships, perfectly positioned to fire into vulnerable areas. Engine clusters, sensor arrays, command structures. If their weapons had been live, the demonstration would have been a massacre. Sereth's satisfaction radiated through her transmission. Phase drive technology allows us to slip through quantum foam, bypassing conventional spacetime entirely. We don't travel to our destination. We simply stop being in our origin point and begin being at our target. No travel time. No predictable vector. No defense. The implications were staggering. Thorne's tactical mind immediately calculated a dozen scenarios where such technology would make conventional warfare obsolete. Shields meant nothing if your enemy appeared inside them. Distance meant nothing if it could be ignored entirely. How do you navigate? Chen asked, her tone curious rather than impressed. Quantum foam fluctuates at the Planck scale. The computational requirements to map a path through that chaos. Proprietary? Sereth replied, though her scales flickered with pleasure at the recognition of the achievement. It took 8 centuries and cost more lives than I care to calculate. But we mastered it. No species in the galaxy can hide from the coiled Ascendant. Except apparently humans. Thorne rumbled, unable to resist the jab, since you didn't detect them either. The Ascendant vessels snapped back to their original positions, another instantaneous translation. Sereth's voice carried an edge now. Your turn, Cregan. Show us this honor you boast about. Thorne grinned, a predatory expression that would have terrified any species unfamiliar with Cregan physiology. Gladly. The Adamant Fist and its 3 support cruisers moved into formation, their positions geometric and precise. To the other species, it looked like simple tactical positioning, but then power readings began to spike across all 4 vessels simultaneously. Shield wall, full integration, Thorne commanded. Energy barriers bloomed around each Cregan ship, but instead of stopping at their hulls, the shields extended outward, overlapping, merging, creating a single unified defensive field that encompassed all 4 vessels. The energy readings were impossible. The combined output exceeded what should be possible without overloading every reactor simultaneously. Fire, Thorne said simply. The Vol fleet, still positioned nearby, obliged. Kethrix targeted a point on the shield wall with a single graviton cannon. Not full power, but enough to demonstrate the principle. The compressed mass struck the Cregan shield barrier and stopped. The singularity point that should have torn through matter and energy alike simply halted against the shield wall, its destructive force distributed across the entire unified field, absorbed by 4 ships simultaneously and dissipated into the void as waste heat. The temperature of the space around the Cregan formation rose by 3 degrees Kelvin and nothing more. Networked defensive matrices, Thorne explained, his pride evident. Each ship contributes its full power to a collective shield. The enemy doesn't face 4 targets. They face one target with 4 times the defensive capacity. And when we attack, the Kregan vessels opened fire simultaneously. Plasma lances, superheated matter accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, erupted from every ship at once, their trajectories coordinated with mathematical precision. They converged on a distant asteroid belt, and where they intersected, the raw thermal energy was enough to vaporize stone and metal instantly. The asteroid belt became an expanding cloud of ionized gas, glowing white-hot as it dissipated. We don't hide. We don't maneuver. We stand our ground and break anything that comes at us. Thorn's voice carried absolute conviction. This is how warriors fight. With honor. With strength. With certainty. The display was brutal, direct, and undeniably effective. Even Quillix's distributed consciousness processed a new respect for Kregan methodology. Simple, perhaps. Unsophisticated, maybe. But devastatingly functional. And finally, Quillix's translated thoughts emerged across all channels. Observe the evolution beyond physical warfare. The 400 Luminar vessels began to move, and it was like watching a school of fish or a flock of birds. Perfect synchronization without any visible communication. They shifted through 3-dimensional space in patterns too complex for organic minds to follow, their movements precise to the millimeter across light seconds of distance. We don't fight as individuals, Quillix explained. We fight as a single organism. Quantum entanglement links every vessel in our fleet. Every sensor reading is shared instantaneously. Every tactical decision is processed collectively. Every response is perfectly coordinated. To demonstrate, the Luminar fleet engaged in a mock battle, half the vessels playing aggressor, half defender. What unfolded was more dance than combat. Ships moved in perfect counterpoint, defensive positions shifting microseconds before attacks arrived. Offensive strikes coordinating across dozens of vessels to create overlapping fields of fire that would make evasion mathematically impossible. The precision was inhuman because it was literally beyond human capability, calculated by quantum processors operating across 400 simultaneous reference frames. We have never lost an engagement, Quillix stated, because we never enter an engagement we haven't already won through calculation. We see every possibility. We choose the certainty of victory. The 4 demonstrations concluded and the Helios sector hung silent except for the background radiation of a dying star. 4 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had just displayed technologies that represented thousands of years of advancement, billions of lives spent in research and development, and the accumulated wisdom of empires older than Earth's first cities. Kethrix felt satisfaction returning. Yes, the humans had surprised them with stealth capabilities, but this was power on a scale that newcomers couldn't match. Let them see what they faced if they ever considered challenging the established order. Impressive demonstrations, Ambassador Chen said, and her voice carried genuine respect. You've achieved remarkable things. Each of you has mastered a different aspect of warfare. Destruction, mobility, resilience, coordination. Separately, any one of you would be nearly unstoppable. There was a pause, a wait in that silence. May we show you what humanity has learned? Chen asked. It won't be quite as direct as what you've shown, but I think you'll find it interesting. Thorn's laugh boomed across the channel. Show us, human. Show us what 3 centuries has taught you that 12,000 years taught us. Kethrix, Cyrith, and Quillix said nothing, but their attention focused completely on the 12 dark vessels that had been waiting silently throughout the demonstrations. Their presence a quiet reminder that they'd been invisible for hours before revealing themselves. Ambassador Chen smiled, though no one could see it. Very well. Let's begin with something simple. Tell me, have any of you ever wondered what would happen if you combined all 4 of your approaches into a single doctrine? And the Terran fleet began to move.